Hey y'all, and welcome back to Bourbon and Bones. Tonight we're back in the kitchen and we're gonna make the 5 most classic cocktails, the ones that I get asked about the most. So if you like what we're doing, if you like our cocktails, or like what we're doing here on the show, like, comment, share, and subscribe us, all those YouTube things. So as usual, the recipes and the descriptions will be below, and again, tell us what you think about them, and try them on your own. Like I said, we're gonna talk about the 5 most classic bourbon and rye cocktails. These are more the original styles, and I really hope you enjoy them as much as I do. I have been thinking about possibly doing like an old fashioned with all the different twists and turns that those kind of can't have developed. If you want to see that, let me know. So the first up tonight is the old fashioned. So this one's pretty straightforward, and most people have made one of these before. I'm going to make 2 little variations. I'm going to change my simple syrup a little bit, and I'm going to use a little bit more of an obscure whiskey for it, but I like it a lot. So you build this entire cocktail in the glass. You start off with a bar spoon of simple syrup, and this is brown sugar simple syrup. You do 3 dashes of Angostura Bitters, new Angostura Bitters, 2 ounces of bourbon or whiskey. What I'm actually using is High West's Double Rye, and it's finished in a Syrah barrel. It's a little unique, but you can find a lot of these barrel selects at different places. I just like the little bit of a dark fruit element to it. And I think it really just elevates a cocktail into something kind of new, kind of different. Finally, a nice big ice rock in there. Finally, a nice big ice rock. We get it in there and then just give it a nice stir. And you want the ice to melt a little bit as you go. Then garnish. So I like 1 Luxardo cherry. Just right in there. And a nice orange peel. So this is a pretty basic old fashioned, but looks nice in a glass. The flavors, right on the nose, you get a little bit of the bitters, a little bit of that rye, and lots of orange. And it's just what you want. Nice, bright rye flavor coming through. A little bit chilled, but not too much. Not enough water in there to water it down. Just a great little flavor. So our 4th cocktail for the evening is the Sazerac. Now we've done an entire episode on that one right here. History of the Sazerac, the brands, the whiskey, everything. But just to do it a little bit more quickly, the Sazerac. So what you want to do is first off, starting off building this in a glass, and I now have an emulsifier that actually just shoots a perfect amount of absinthe into it, so you don't have to rinse the glass anymore. Very high tech here at Bourbon and Bones. Then you're going to have 2 ounces of Sazerac, or any kind of nice caramel heavy rye whiskey. I feel like here, building a Sazerac out of anything but Sazerac is a little blasphemous, so we're going to try to avoid that. A 1/2 ounce of simple syrup, 3 dashes of Pritchard's Bitters. Put a large rock into it. Put that in there. Give it a bit of a stir. And another lemon slice. Just right along the top. So, Sazerac. Of course, first thing you smell, lemon. But on the palate, you get a nice little burst of kind of actually a vanilla rye, a little bit of an earthiness, a little bit of a herbaliness from the bitters. It's just a really, it's a lovely little Sazerac. Nothing fancy, but very delicious. You can play with this recipe like crazy with different types of ryes, but yeah, the Sazerac. So second up tonight is the Manhattan. So this is actually a stirred drink. So we have our new fancy stirred glass. Very excited about having. And this calls for 2 ounces of bourbon or rye. And I think I'm going to use the old Overholt Bonded. This comes out of Heaven Hill and is just a fantastic rye. Like 25 bucks for 100 proof rye, and is one of the best little deals on the market. So you want 2 ounces of a rye. One ounce of Antica Formula sweet vermouth. Kept calling it Angostura for some reason, so. Two dashes of Angostura Bitters. Got that one right. And a single dash of orange bitters. Add the ice. And then give this a nice good stir. It's okay if you go 30 seconds, a minute and a half, something like that, to really make sure that the cocktail is well infused. There's a little bit of liquid coming from the ice into it, and it just really chills everything down. I'm going to put this into a nice coupe glass. Go ahead and gate that and pour it in. And I really like to garnish this with one nice cherry. So, the Manhattan. On top you get a little bit of that rye whiskey kind of coming off of it. It's very chilled smelling, which is interesting, and a nice little sweetness. I think more coming from the vermouth. On the palate you get this nice little herbal punch from the vermouth, from the bitters. You have this nice caramel, oaky, baking spiciness coming from the rye. It's very delicate, but also has this nice richness to it. It's very warming. Even though it's a chilled cocktail, it has this very warming mouthfeel to it. It's just a fantastic classic cocktail. All right, third up this evening is the whiskey sour. So this one's actually built in a shaker. And I like to start off with this one with a wheated bourbon. So we're gonna use Maker's Mark 101, originally a Japanese only release. then went to the distillery only release, and then during COVID last year in 2020, it went full market. So this is about $32 bourbon. Nice proof point for Maker's Mark. It makes for a really good cocktail. So 2 ounces. So I like to split the juice on this one into half an ounce of lemon and then a quarter ounce of lime juice. So a half ounce of lemon juice, quarter ounce of lime juice, and then a quarter of an ounce of simple syrup. Just add a touch of sweetness to it. And the most important part, and this is the part that I think a lot of people are kind of put off by sometimes, is an egg white. And it's really important to have the egg white in the cocktail, mainly because it's a difference between milk and a milkshake. One's nice without the egg white. It's a nice cocktail. But without the egg white, it really never gets there. It becomes a lot more frothy, a lot more body to it, and we'll see how it goes. So, in there and give it a good shake. I hear it. So the best thing to do is to double strain this one. You don't want any residual pulp really coming through. So pour that right on in. I like a lemon garnish with this, or a lemon cocktail. Be a surprise, surprise. Right along the lip there. And to finish the cocktail off, I really enjoy putting a couple of dashes of bitters on the top. And I don't think it adds a lot to the smell, or a few more dashes. But I think it brings a little bit more to the cocktail, just another layer of complexity. So, the whiskey sour. And it is fresh lemon. A little bit of lime there. And a little bit of an herbalness, definitely from the bitters. And on the body, it is buttery, silky, spicy, definitely from the bourbon, kind of peppery. Just really approachable, fresh, bright cocktail. And I like the lemon and the lime kind of playing with each other. There's not just one citrus note, it's a few different ones. A little bit of an earthen note as well from the bourbon. And finally, the mint julep. So we've done a full episode on this before, link. And we went through the history of the mint julep, talked about the Kentucky Derby and how important that is to bourbon. But simply, mint julep is an incredible introduction into summer bourbon cocktails. It is fresh and delicious. So you build this one again in the glass, and you must always use a silver cup. If you don't have one, you can use something else. But again, blasphemy. So you start off with taking a handful of mint sprigs. I think somewhere around 8-ish is perfect. More if you like lots of mint, like I do. I want to give it a little bit of a muddle. Not enough to break it up, but enough to kind of just wake it up. So when you're muddling, you just want to smell that mint just kind of coming up. Perfect. You want to use, for me, Buffalo Trace bourbon. I think is just one of the best pairings to a mint julep. And I've never tasted mint in the bourbon, but it just does so well. Again, Buffalo Trace. My favorite mint julep bourbon. So 2 ounces bourbon. You want a, say, 2 bar spoons of simple syrup. So a lot of recipes call for a lot of simple syrup, and I think it's often just too much, and you lose the flavor of the bourbon and even of the mint. So throw your ice in there, about halfway full, and then start to give it a good stir. So you want to stir it until the outside of the glass begins to frost. Finish it up with a little bit of ice and garnish with a little bit more mint. Right, so the mint julep. So on the nose you get, of course, mint right away. And you get this nice, cold, velvety bourbon coming through. A little bit of extra sweetness from the sugar. And this touch of just mint. It's just a very delicate amount that blends really well with the caramels and the vanillas and a little bit of that oak from the bourbon. It just plays so well together. This is still one of my absolute favorite summertime cocktails because it is so refreshing. So there we have it. The 5 most commonly requested bourbon rye-based cocktails in bourbon. So how did we do? Which one's your favorite? For me personally, I love an old-fashioned and a mint julep and a whiskey sour. Those are 3 of my favorite of the 5. Sazerac's great and a Manhattan's wonderful, but not this time of year. But yeah, so below, comment. Tell me what you think is the best cocktail. What did you like about it? What did you think I did poorly? I'm always excited to hear from you. So, as always, share a bourbon with someone.